I, 32M, am a civil engineer, which basically means I spend my entire life worrying about how things hold together. I'm obsessed with structural integrity and blueprints. I thought I had built a rock-solid life with my fiancé, 29F. We were together for 3 years, and were exactly 6 days away from our wedding, a massive $45,000 event, when I realized the woman I was about to marry was actually a professional-grade con artist. It started on a random Tuesday. I was in my home office when she walked in and put her phone on my desk. She had a bank transfer screen open, ready to go. The recipient was her ex-boyfriend. The amount was $12,000. She didn't ask, she told me to hit send. She claimed he was in debt to some bad people over a loan they took out back when they were together, and that his parents would lose their house if I didn't pay. Now, I knew for a fact she hadn't talked to this guy in years, or so I thought. I told her no. That $12,000 was our entire liquid safety net for the honeymoon and our first few mortgage payments. She didn't even blink. She told me that if the money wasn't wired by 9 a.m. the next day, I shouldn't bother showing up to the altar. She called me selfish and walked out to go to her mother's house. I didn't wire the money. Instead, I did something I'd never done because I actually trusted her. I went through our shared iPad. I found everything. She hadn't stopped talking to the ex. They were together the whole time. The debt wasn't some old loan. It was from his recent sports gambling addiction. The $12,000 was the last chunk of change he needed to clear his books so they could run off together after she secured the assets from our marriage. Yeah, she actually used those words in a text to him. At 9:01 a.m. the next morning, I didn't send the money. My phone exploded. Her mother called me screaming, calling me a financial abuser and a deadbeat. I told her to check who the money was going to, and hung up. Then came the text from my fiancé that changed everything. Check your personal savings. I guessed your password. See you in court, loser. I logged in and my stomach dropped. She had drained $48,000, money I had set aside for my business taxes. Since we weren't married, this was straight-up grand larceny. But before I could even call the cops, they were at my door. My fiancé had gone to the precinct with fake bruises she'd made with makeup and claimed I'd beaten her because she asked for her rightful share of the money. In New York, with the way the laws work for immediate domestic protection, I was served with a temporary restraining order and kicked out of my own house on the spot. She stood there in the driveway, fake crying for the officers, then whispered to me that she was going to strip the house bare while I was in a shelter. But here's the thing about being an engineer. I'm paranoid. She knew about the Wi-Fi cameras and unplugged them. She didn't know about the secondary, hardwired NVR system I'd hidden in the basement crawl space. Those cameras were pinhole-sized and built into the smoke detectors. They don't need Wi-Fi, they run on power over Ethernet. I went to a motel and pulled up the live feed. I watched her and the ex-boyfriend drinking my expensive scotch in my kitchen. I watched her stand in front of a mirror and meticulously paint purple eyeshadow onto her neck to look like bruises. I recorded the whole thing. They talked about moving the $48,000 through digital wallets to an offshore exchange in the Caribbean, so it couldn't be traced. I called my lawyer, who is basically a shark in a suit. He told me that the video was a get-out-of-jail-free card, but we had to be smart. If we had her arrested right then, she'd bail out and disappear with the money. We needed her to think she was winning until the wedding day. The next few days were pure psychological torture. Her bridesmaids sent me endless texts calling me a monster. Her lawyer sent a settlement offer saying she'd drop the charges if I signed the house over to her. I stayed silent. I let them think I was broken. Meanwhile, I was working with the DA and the FBI's IC3 unit because the money had moved across state lines and into an international exchange. That makes it federal wire fraud. Saturday morning, wedding day. She showed up at the venue in a $6,000 dress she'd bought on my card. She stood at the altar in front of 100 guests and started a tearful speech about how I was too dangerous to show up and how she was a victim. I had hired a production crew that was actually a team of process servers and undercover cops. Right as she started crying into the mic, the 20-foot LED screen behind her, which was supposed to show a slideshow of our photos, flickered to life. It played the video of her painting the fake bruises on her neck. Then it played the audio of her and the ex laughing about stealing my tax money. The room went silent. The ex, who was hiding in the back of the room, tried to run but got tackled by the undercovers. I walked through the doors and right up to her. I told her that in engineering, if the foundation is toxic, the whole building has to come down. The cops stepped up and handcuffed her right there in her white dress. I told her mother, who was screaming in the front row, that the offshore accounts were already frozen and the money was being clawed back. Since the restraining order was based on perjury, it was void, and I was having their luggage tossed onto the curb by a private security team at that very moment. The legal fallout was massive. The ex-boyfriend took a plea deal and is serving 2 years. My ex-fiancée got hit with perjury in the first degree, a Class D felony in New York, and grand larceny. She's currently serving 3 to 7 years in state prison. I sued her for the cost of the wedding and won a full judgment, putting a lien on everything she owns. I sold the house because I couldn't stand the smell of her perfume in the hallways. I moved, got a better job, and I'm doing great. It cost me a lot of stress, but that $12,000 ultimatum was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the alarm bell that saved my life. If you enjoyed seeing a rock-solid plan get demolished by its own structural flaws, make sure to subscribe. I promise my future updates will have more integrity than my ex's makeup skills.